Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the stars through the main view screen. His ship was 3 weeks into a routine survey mission in the Outer Rim territories. The work was boring but necessary. Earth needed to map every system, every asteroid, every possible resource in their small corner of the galaxy. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Chief Science Officer Lisa Martinez from her station. She frowned at her instruments, running the scans again. "There's an energy signature coming from the dead star system ahead. It's artificial." Jake walked over to her station. The readings made no sense. "Are you sure it's not just stellar radiation?" "No, sir. This is definitely technology. The energy pattern is too regular, too focused. Someone built whatever is generating this signal." Lisa's fingers danced across her controls. "The source appears to be deep in an asteroid field around the dead star." Jake studied the data. His ship was equipped for exploration, not combat. If they found hostile aliens, they would be in serious trouble. But his orders were clear. Investigate anything unusual and report back to Earth. "Set course for the asteroid field," he commanded. "Yellow alert. I want all sensors active." Commander Nick Powell, his second in command, moved to the tactical station. "Captain, the asteroid field looks artificial. These rocks didn't form naturally. Someone arranged them in a specific pattern." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. The outer rim was supposed to be empty. No known alien species operated in this area. Earth's colonies were still small and weak compared to the great galactic powers. They couldn't afford to make enemies. The horizon's edge moved slowly through the asteroid field. The rocks were massive, some as large as cities. They formed a perfect spiral pattern leading toward the dead star's core. Whatever had arranged them possessed incredible technology. "Energy readings are getting stronger," Lisa reported. "The source is directly ahead, about 50,000 kilometers." On the view screen, space seemed to shimmer like water. Reality bent and twisted in impossible ways. Jake had never seen anything like it. "It's some kind of quantum bubble," Lisa said, her voice filled with wonder. "The energy field is containing a pocket of space-time separate from normal reality." As they drew closer, the shimmer cleared. Inside the quantum bubble was a ship. But it wasn't like any vessel Jake had ever seen. The ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the horizon's edge. Its hull was sleek and black, covered in weapon ports and sensor arrays that looked decades ahead of current human technology. "My God," Nick whispered. "Look at the markings on the hull." Jake squinted at the view screen. Along the ship's side in clear English letters were the words UES Defiant, and below that, United Earthship. "That's impossible," Jake said. "Earth has never built anything like that. Our biggest ships are barely half that size." Lisa ran every scan she could think of. "The design is human, but the technology is far beyond anything we have. The power core alone generates more energy than our entire fleet combined. And Captain, according to my readings, this ship is in perfect condition. It's not a wreck, it's in some kind of stasis." Jake made a decision that would change the course of human history. "Prepare a boarding party. We're going aboard." Nick selected his best security officers while Lisa gathered her scientific equipment. The quantum bubble allowed their shuttle to pass through safely. They docked with the massive ship through an airlock that seemed designed specifically for their smaller craft. The interior of the Defiant was as impressive as its exterior. The corridors were wide and tall, with walls that glowed with soft light. Everything was clean and new, as if the ship had just left the shipyard. Their footsteps echoed in the empty halls. "Life support is active," Lisa reported, checking her scanner. "Gravity, atmosphere, temperature, everything is perfect for human life." They made their way to the bridge, following signs in English that guided them through the ship's maze-like interior. The bridge was massive, with dozens of control stations arranged in tiers around a central command area. Holographic displays showed star charts and tactical information that none of them could understand. In the center of the bridge were several pods that looked like sleeping chambers. Through the transparent tops, they could see people inside. Humans dressed in uniforms similar to Earth's Navy but with subtle differences in design. "They're alive," Lisa said, checking her medical scanner. "All of them are in perfect health. Some kind of suspended animation system is keeping them preserved." Nick counted 12 pods total. "Look at their rank insignia. That man in the center pod, he's wearing captain's stripes." Jake approached the central pod and read the nameplate. "Captain Alex Turner, UES Defiant." Below that were service dates that made his blood run cold. According to the plate, Alex Turner had been born in 2401 and commissioned as a captain in 2441. The current year was 2387. "These people are from the future," Jake said quietly. "But how is that possible?" Lisa was already working at one of the science stations, her equipment interfacing with the ship's systems. "The computer core is incredible. It contains historical records, technical specifications, everything. According to the logs, this ship was built in 2444 by the United Earth Space Navy. But Earth doesn't have a space navy," Nick pointed out. "We have the colonial fleet, but it's tiny compared to this." "Not in their timeline," Lisa said, reading through the data. "According to these records, by 2444, humanity controlled dozens of star systems and commanded the most powerful fleet in the galaxy." Jake stared at the sleeping captain. What had happened to bring this ship to their time? And what did it mean for humanity's future? An alarm suddenly echoed through the bridge. The sleeping pods began to glow with soft blue light. After 60 years of waiting, the crew of the Defiant was finally waking up. Jake watched as the pod containing Captain Turner slowly opened. Steam hissed out as the stasis field deactivated. Turner's eyes opened, and he sat up slowly, looking around in confusion. "Where are we?" Turner asked, his voice rough from decades of sleep. "What's our status, Commander?" He stopped when he saw Jake and his crew. Their uniforms were wrong, their equipment primitive. Turner's experienced eyes took in every detail. "Who are you?" Turner demanded, his hand moving instinctively toward a weapon that wasn't there. "What ship is this?" Jake stepped forward, knowing that his next words would change everything. "Captain Turner, I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth, vessel Horizon's Edge. The year is 2387, and we found your ship drifting in a quantum bubble. According to our records, you and your ship shouldn't exist yet." Turner's face went pale as he processed this information. Around him, his crew was beginning to wake up. They looked just as confused and frightened as their captain. 87? Turner repeated. "But that's impossible. We were pursuing enemy ships in 2445. There was a space-time distortion, and then—" He trailed off, the horrible truth beginning to dawn on him. Jake nodded grimly. "Captain, I think you and your crew have traveled through time. And now you're stuck in our era 60 years before you were even born." Captain Alex Turner sat in his command chair, his mind struggling to accept the impossible situation. Around him, his crew worked at their stations, trying to make sense of what had happened. The bridge of the Defiant hummed with activity as systems came back online after decades of sleep. "Dr. Brooks' report," Turner said to a woman with short gray hair who was bent over the temporal physics station. Dr. Helen Brooks looked up from her instruments, her face grave. "Captain, the quantum signature readings confirm what Captain Morrison told us. We've been displaced 60 years into the past, but that's not the worst part." Turner waited for her to continue, dreading what she might say. "We're not just in the past, sir, we're in a completely different timeline. The quantum resonance patterns don't match our original reality at all." Jake Morrison and his crew stood nearby, listening to every word. The technology they were witnessing was beyond their understanding, but the implications were terrifyingly clear. Turner stood and faced Jake. "Captain Morrison, I need to know everything about your timeline. What's the current political situation in the galaxy? Who are the major powers?" Jake felt overwhelmed but tried to answer. "The Corvin Empire controls most of this sector. They're the strongest military force we know about. The Zethran Confederation maintains peace in the core systems. Earth has 12 colonies and maybe 50 ships total. We're not considered a major power by anyone." Turner's face grew dark. In my timeline, the Corvins were our greatest enemies. We fought a brutal war against them for 15 years. And the Zethrans? He paused, looking confused. The Zethrans were our closest allies. They helped us build our first battle fleet. Lieutenant Commander Ben Carter approached from the tactical station. He was a tall man with scars on his face from old battles. Captain, I've run diagnostics on all weapon systems. The Defiant is fully operational. Every gun, every shield generator, every missile tube is ready for combat. Jake watched as Carter activated a holographic display showing the ship's armament. The numbers made his head spin. The Defiant carried more firepower than Earth's entire colonial fleet. Its main guns could destroy cities. Its missile pods could level continents. My God, Nick Powell whispered. You could take on the entire Corvin battle fleet with this ship. Turner nodded grimly. That was the idea. The Defiant was designed to end wars, not fight them. One ship that could stand against any enemy and force them to make peace. Dr. Brooks continued her analysis of the timeline differences. Captain, I'm detecting massive variations in historical development. In our timeline, humanity made contact with alien species in 2267. First contact led to immediate conflict when the Corvins tried to enslave our outer colonies. Jake shook his head. That's not how it happened here. We made first contact in 2341, and it was peaceful. The Corvins ignored us mostly. They said we weren't worth their attention. Because you weren't a threat, Turner realized. In our timeline, humans showed aggression from the beginning. We fought back when they tried to enslave us. It started a cycle of warfare that lasted decades. Lisa Martinez had been quietly scanning the ship's computer system with her equipment. Captain Morrison, you need to see this. The Defiance database contains detailed information about dozens of alien species. Military capabilities, political structures, technological levels. It's an intelligence goldmine. Turner looked uncomfortable. That information was gathered through years of warfare and espionage. Every piece of data in our files was paid for with human blood. Jake studied the tactical displays showing alien fleet positions and strength estimates. The information was incredibly detailed. With this knowledge, humanity could predict and counter every move their potential enemies might make. There's more, Dr. Brooks said. I've been analyzing the temporal displacement that brought us here. It wasn't an accident. The enemy was using some kind of experimental weapon when we engaged them. The weapon created a massive space-time rift that pulled us backward through time. What enemy? Jake asked. Turner's expression grew even darker. The hegemony. A coalition of 12 different species united in their hatred of humanity. They blamed us for starting the Galactic War even though the Corvins threw the first punch. Carter brought up more tactical displays. Sir, in our timeline, the war was spreading. The hegemony had developed weapons that could destroy entire star systems. We were winning individual battles, but they were burning planets to deny them to us. Jake felt sick. The future these people described was a nightmare of endless warfare and destruction. Billions of lives lost because humanity had been too aggressive in their expansion. But it doesn't have to happen that way, Turner said, reading Jake's expression. This is a different timeline. Humanity developed differently here. You've been peaceful, cautious. Maybe that's better. Dr. Brooks looked up from her instruments again. Captain, I'm detecting quantum instabilities in our molecular structure. Our extended presence in this timeline is causing paradox effects. The universe is trying to correct our existence. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means we're slowly being erased from reality, Turner said calmly. The longer we stay here, the more we fade. Eventually, we'll cease to exist entirely. The bridge fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The crew of the Defiant had sacrificed everything to protect their timeline, only to find themselves slowly dying in another reality. How long do we have? Turner asked. Difficult to say. Maybe weeks, maybe months. The process could accelerate if we interact too much with local events. Jake made a decision. Then we need to get you home. There has to be a way to reverse the temporal displacement. Turner shook his head. Even if we could go back, what would we return to? Our timeline was heading toward total galactic war. Billions would die regardless. But they're your people, Jake protested. And these are my people too, Turner replied, gesturing toward Jake and his crew. You're humans, just from a different path. Maybe we can help you avoid the mistakes we made. Dr. Martinez had been studying the ship's historical records. Captain Morrison, according to these files, the key difference between the timelines was humanity's first response to alien contact. In their reality, humans immediately began militarizing and expanding aggressively. Here we were more cautious. Because we were smart enough to realize we were outgunned, Nick said. Turner walked to the main view screen, staring out at the stars. We thought strength was the answer. Build bigger ships, develop better weapons, show the galaxy that humanity wouldn't be pushed around. It worked in the short term, but it created enemies faster than we could defeat them. So what do we do? Now? Jake asked. We can't just pretend this never happened. Your ship exists, whether it should or not, and word of advanced human technology will spread. Carter checked his sensor readings. Captain, I'm detecting several alien ships at the edge of this system. They're maintaining distance but definitely observing us. Turner wasn't surprised. The quantum discharge from our stasis field reactivating probably created subspace ripples across half the sector. Every intelligence service in the galaxy knows something unusual happened here. Jake felt the weight of responsibility crushing down on him. He was an exploration captain, not a diplomat or military strategist. But somehow, he had become the person who would decide how humanity handled the most important discovery in their history. Captain Turner, Jake said finally, we need your help. Not your weapons or your technology. Your wisdom. You've seen where the path of aggression leads. Help us choose a better way. Turner nodded slowly. I'll do what I can, Captain Morrison. But understand that our presence here has already changed things. The galaxy will never be the same again. The news of the mysterious human Dreadnought spread through the galaxy like wildfire. Within days, every major power knew that Earth possessed a warship beyond their understanding. Ambassador Kate Sullivan arrived at the asteroid field aboard the diplomatic vessel New York, her face showing the strain of sleepless nights and impossible decisions. Jake Morrison met her in the conference room aboard the Horizon's Edge. Kate was a veteran diplomat, but nothing in her experience had prepared her for this situation. Captain Morrison, Kate said, her voice tight with stress. I've been in constant communication with Earth Command and the Colonial Council. Nobody knows what to do. We have senators demanding that we claim the ship as Earth property. Military. Advisors want to strip it for technology. And half the council thinks we should destroy it before it starts a war. Jake nodded. He had expected as much. What are your orders, Ambassador? Officially? Take control of the situation and prevent any breach of galactic peace treaties. Kate laughed bitterly. Unofficially? Figure out how to keep humanity from being wiped out when the aliens decide we're too dangerous to live. Captain Turner entered the room, accompanied by Dr. Brooks and Commander Carter. Kate studied them with professional interest. They looked human, but there was something different about them. They carried themselves like people who had seen too much war. Ambassador Sullivan, Turner said, I've read your diplomatic files. In my timeline, you were one of the key architects of the Human-Zethran Alliance. Your negotiating skills were legendary. Kate looked confused. I've never negotiated with the Zethrans. They consider humanity beneath their notice. Not anymore, Dr. Brooks said, checking her quantum scanner. The temporal ripples from our arrival are accelerating local timeline changes. Several alien species are already adjusting their policies regarding humanity. Jake's communication officer interrupted. Captain, we're receiving multiple priority transmissions. The Corvan Empire is demanding immediate communication with our commanding officer. Turner's expression darkened. They're moving faster than I expected. The Corvans never could tolerate uncertainty. The main view screen activated, showing the face of Admiral Thexvar, a reptilian Corvan with scarred features and cold yellow eyes. Behind him, Jake could see the bridge of a massive warship. Human vessels, Thexvar hissed, his words translated by the Universal Communication System. You will immediately surrender the illegal weapons platform you have discovered. The Corvan Empire will not tolerate unregistered military technology in this sector. Kate stepped forward, falling back on her diplomatic training. Admiral Thexvar, this is Ambassador Kate Sullivan representing Earth's colonial administration. The vessel in question was found drifting in space and poses no threat to Corvan interests. Do not lie to me, human, Thexvar snarled. Our sensors detected the weapon signatures when your ship powered up. No species should possess technology of that level without Imperial approval. Turner moved into view of the screen, and Thexvar's eyes widened in recognition and hatred. You, the Corvan Admiral whispered. But you are dead. I watched your ship burn at the Battle of Centauri Prime. Wrong timeline, Admiral, Turner said, calmly. Though I see your personality hasn't improved any. Jake realized that Turner and this Corvan knew each other from the future war. The hatred between them was obvious and deeply personal. Surrender now, Thexvar demanded, or I will destroy every human colony in this sector. You have 12 hours. On the eye, transmission ended, leaving the conference room in tense silence. Well, Kate said dryly. That went better than expected. Chief Engineer Ryan Foster burst into the room, his face flushed with excitement. Captains, you need to see this. I've been working with the Defiance engineering staff and their technology is incredible. Their power core alone could revolutionize human space travel. Turner held up a hand. Mr. Foster, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but sharing our technology might not be wise. Why not? Ryan asked. This could solve Earth's energy crisis, upgrade our entire fleet, give us the tools we need to defend ourselves. Dr. Brooks spoke up quietly. Because rapid technological advancement without cultural preparation is what started the war in our timeline. We gave humanity the power of gods before we learned the wisdom to use it. Kate looked between the two groups of humans. What exactly happened in your timeline? What went so wrong? Turner sat heavily in a chair, looking older than his years. We found derelict alien technology in 2267. Instead of studying it carefully, we reverse-engineered weapons and used them to defend our colonies. It worked too well. We went from ignored primitives to galactic threats in 50 years. The other species panicked, Carter added. They saw us as a virus that would spread and consume everything. They formed the hegemony to contain us. And the more they pushed, the harder we pushed back, Turner continued. Each victory made us more arrogant, more certain that human ingenuity could solve any problem. We never learned when to stop fighting and start talking. Dr. Martinez had been quietly working at a computer terminal. Captain Morrison, I've been analyzing the Defiance sensor logs. The ship that brought them here, it wasn't destroyed. According to these readings, there's still an active temporal rift somewhere in this system. Jake felt a spark of hope. Can we use it to send them home? Dr. Brooks shook her head. The rift is unstable and getting worse. It's actually pulling more temporal energy from our timeline, which is why the changes are accelerating. What kind of changes? Kate asked. Small ones so far, Dr. Brooks replied. Trade routes being adjusted, military patrols being repositioned, diplomatic communications being sent that weren't in the original timeline. But they're building toward something bigger. Commander Powell entered the room, his face grim. Captains, long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements throughout the sector. Corvan, Zethran, even species we've never seen before. They're all converging on this system. Turner nodded as if he had expected this. Word is spreading that humanity has access to advanced technology. Every power in the galaxy wants to either claim it or destroy it before their enemies can get it. So what do we do? Jake asked. We can't fight the entire galaxy. Maybe we don't have to, Kate said thoughtfully. What if we approached this differently? Instead of hiding the technology or using it as a weapon, what if we offered to share it? Turner looked skeptical. The Corvans won't negotiate, they believe might makes right. The Corvans, maybe, Kate replied. But what about the others? The Zethrans value stability above conquest. The Meridian Collective prioritizes trade and economic growth. We could build a coalition of species who benefit from cooperation rather than conflict. Dr. Brooks looked up from her scanner, alarm clear on her face. Captains, we have a serious problem. The temporal instabilities are cascading. The rift is beginning to affect local space-time throughout the system. What does that mean? Jake asked. It means that if we don't stabilize or close the rift soon, it could create a permanent temporal anomaly. Time itself could become unreliable in this entire sector. Turner stood, decision clear in his eyes. Then we need to end this quickly, one way or another. Outside the ship, space began to shimmer as dozens of alien vessels dropped out of hyperspace. The most powerful fleets in the galaxy had arrived, and they all wanted the same thing: to control or destroy the ship that could rewrite the balance of power among the stars. Jake looked at the assembled fleet on his view screen and realized that the next few hours would determine not just humanity's fate, but the future of the entire galaxy. The lost Dreadnought had done more than travel through time. It had created a moment where every species would have to choose between fear and hope. All hands to battle stations, Jake ordered. This is going to get interesting. Turner smiled grimly as he watched the alien fleets take position. Captain Morrison, welcome to galactic politics. Try not to start any wars. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The man from a timeline of endless conflict was advising them on peace, while the peaceful explorers prepared for battle. But perhaps that was exactly what they needed: the wisdom of someone who had seen where violence led, guiding them toward a better path. The fate of countless worlds now hung in the balance, and a handful of humans would decide which future would come to pass. The space around the dead star system filled with warships as the greatest fleets in the galaxy converged on the mysterious human Dreadnought. Admiral Thexvar arrived first with 17 Corvan battlecruisers, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could glass planets. Behind them came sleek Zethran peacekeepers, boxy Meridian trade defense ships, and vessels from a dozen other species. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge, watching the tactical display with growing dread. His small exploration ship was vastly outnumbered and outgunned. Even with the Defiant nearby, they faced impossible odds. Incoming transmission from the Corvan flagship, his communications officer reported. Admiral Thexvar appeared on the main screen, his reptilian features twisted with rage. Human vessels, you have defied the Corvan Empire for the last time. Surrender the weapons platform immediately or face annihilation. Before Jake could respond, Captain Turner's voice came over the communication channel from the Defiant. Admiral Thexvar, this is Captain Alex Turner. I suggest you reconsider your position. You are outnumbered 17-1, human. Thexvar hissed. Your ship may be advanced, but it cannot stand against an entire battle fleet. Turner's response was calm and confident. Would you like to test that theory? The Corvan Admiral's eyes blazed with fury. All ships open fire. Destroy them both. 17 Corvan warships opened fire simultaneously, filling space with energy beams and plasma torpedoes. Jake watched in horror as enough firepower to destroy a city converged on the Defiant. The advanced 8A human ship's shields flared to life, a brilliant blue barrier that absorbed the massive attack without even flickering. The Defiant sat motionless in space, completely unharmed. Impossible, Thexvar breathed. Turner's voice remained steady. Your turn. The Defiant fired a single shot from its main gun. The beam of pure energy struck the Corvan flagship's shields and burned through them like they weren't there. The shot punched through the hull and detonated the ship's power core. The massive battlecruiser exploded in a flash of light that could be seen from neighboring star systems. The remaining Corvan ships immediately ceased fire, their crews stunned by the casual destruction of their most powerful vessel. Any other volunteers? Turner asked. Jake couldn't believe what he had just witnessed. The Defiant had destroyed a ship 10 times its size with a single shot. The technology gap was so vast that it defied comprehension. Dr. Brooks spoke from the Defiant's bridge. Captain, the temporal displacement effects are accelerating. That battle just created massive quantum ripples across local spacetime. Jake realized Turner was starting to flicker slightly, his image wavering like a bad hologram. The battle had somehow made his temporal instability worse. Commander Carter took over tactical control as Turner struggled to maintain focus. All alien vessels, This is the UES Defiant. We have no desire for further conflict. Withdraw your fleets and no more ships will be destroyed. But instead of retreating, more ships dropped out of hyperspace. The other galactic powers had witnessed the destruction of the Corvin flagship and wanted to test the human ship's capabilities themselves. A sleek vessel with Zethran markings approached slowly. This is Arbiter Veltar of the Zethran Confederation. We seek peaceful dialogue regarding this unprecedented technology. Another ship, massive and industrial-looking, powered forward. Meridian Collective Trade Defense Force, came the transmission. We demand immediate sharing of technological specifications under Galactic Commerce Regulation 7. Jake watched as the situation spiraled out of control. Every species in the galaxy wanted the Defiant's technology, either through negotiation or force. The ship that was supposed to prevent wars was causing the biggest military standoff in galactic history. Turner managed to stabilize his temporal cohesion temporarily. Captain Morrison, I need to tell you something about the ship's AI system. Aria has been analyzing the quantum situation, and she's discovered something important. The holographic SEM, face of Aria, Advanced Reconnaissance and Intelligence Assistant, appeared on both bridges. She looked completely human, with kind eyes and an expression of deep concern. Captains, Aria said, I have been monitoring timeline fluctuations since our arrival. The temporal rift that brought us here is growing stronger, not weaker. Our presence is creating a cascade effect that will permanently alter this reality. Jake felt his heart sink. What kind of alterations? According to my calculations, our interference has already changed the development path of 12 different species. The Corvin Empire will become more militaristic in response to witnessing our technology. The Zethran Confederation will begin a secret weapons development program. The Meridian Collective will form military alliances they never would have considered before. Turner closed his eyes in pain that wasn't entirely physical. We're recreating the conditions that led to the war in our timeline. Dr. Martinez had been monitoring the alien fleet communications. Captain Morrison, the various fleets are starting to position themselves for combat. They're not just focused on us anymore. They're preparing to fight each other for the right to claim our technology. Jake looked at the tactical display in horror. Over 100 warships from different species were maneuvering for advantage. The slightest incident could trigger the largest space battle in galactic history. Aria, Turner said weakly. Show them the projections. The AI created a holographic star map showing the likely consequences of the current situation. Red lines indicated projected conflict zones, and the entire map was soon covered in them. Based on current trends, Aria explained, this incident will lead to a galactic arms race within 5 years. Multiple species will develop weapons similar to ours. The balance of power will collapse, leading to the formation of hostile alliances and eventually total war. Ambassador Kate Sullivan, who had been quiet throughout the crisis, finally spoke. There has to be another option. We can't let the future become a battlefield because of something we discovered. Turner looked at her with eyes that held the pain of 1,000 battles. There is one option, Ambassador, but it requires a sacrifice that I'm not sure any of us are prepared to make. Commander Powell looked up from his sensor station. Captains, I'm detecting massive energy buildups throughout the alien fleet. Multiple species are preparing to open fire, and I don't think they're all aiming at us. The largest battle in galactic history was about to begin, triggered by humanity's discovery of its own future. Jake realized that they had reached the critical moment where every choice would echo through eternity. Turner stood with effort, his form flickering more violently as temporal forces tore at his existence. Captain Morrison, I need you to understand something. The war in our timeline didn't start because we were evil or because our enemies were monsters. It started because everyone was afraid and nobody was willing to make the first sacrifice for peace. Jake met Turner's eyes and saw the weight of knowledge there. The man from the future knew what choice had to be made, but the cost would be terrible. What do you need me to do? Jake asked. Turner smiled sadly. Help me save both our timelines, even if it means destroying the ship that brought us together. Outside their vessels, space filled with the deadly glow of weapons preparing to fire. The fate of countless species hung in the balance. and the next few minutes would determine whether the galaxy would know peace or eternal war. The lost Dreadnought had indeed rewritten history, but the final chapter was still being written, and it would require a level of courage and sacrifice that would test the very best of human nature. Space around the dead star erupted into chaos as over 300 alien warships faced each other in the largest military standoff in galactic history. Weapons charged, shields powered up, and every species prepared for a battle that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. Captain Jake Morrison watched the tactical display with growing dread. The Corvan Empire had deployed their entire sector fleet. The Zethran Confederation brought their most advanced peacekeeping vessels. Even species that had never shown aggression before arrived with battle fleets, determined to either claim the Defiance technology or prevent their enemies from getting it. At the center of it all, Captain Alex Turner struggled to maintain his existence as temporal forces tore at his molecular structure. His form flickered like a failing hologram, and his crew was experiencing similar effects. They were literally being erased from reality. "Captain," Dr. Helen Brooks said from her station, her own image wavering, "the temporal cascade is reaching critical levels. The rift we created is pulling energy from multiple timelines simultaneously. If it continues to grow, it could tear a permanent hole in space-time itself." Turner turned to Jake with eyes that held the wisdom of hard-won experience. "Captain Morrison, there's something I never told you about our timeline. The war that consumed our galaxy, it never really ended. Even when we won battles, even when we forced other species to surrender, the hatred kept growing. Every victory just created more enemies." Jake nodded, understanding beginning to dawn on him. "You're saying that might makes right isn't really right at all." "Exactly." Turner's voice was growing weaker as temporal forces pulled at him. "The Defiant was built to end wars through superior firepower, but all it really did was make everyone else want bigger guns." Arya's holographic form appeared on both bridges, her expression sad but determined. "Captains, I have been analyzing probability matrices for the past several hours. There is only one scenario that prevents galactic war and stabilizes the temporal anomaly." "What do you need us to do?" Jake asked, though he suspected he already knew the answer. Turner smiled, and for a moment the pain left his face. "We need to make the hardest choice any captain can make. We need to sacrifice our ship to save the galaxy." Before Jake could respond, the communication system crackled with incoming transmissions from the alien fleets. Admiral Thexvar's surviving ships had been joined by the full Corvan Imperial fleet, over 50 vessels that dwarfed anything else in the system. "This is Emperor Korvthak himself," came the transmission, the first time in centuries that a Corvan emperor had personally led a battle fleet. "Humans, you have demonstrated technology that threatens the stability of galactic civilization. Surrender immediately or face the combined might of the greatest empire in the galaxy." Other voices joined in, creating a cacophony of demands and threats. The Zethran Confederation wanted peaceful negotiations. The Meridian Collective demanded immediate technology sharing. Dozens of smaller species threatened military action if their demands weren't met. Turner looked at the massive fleet arrayed against them and began to laugh. It was a sound filled with both sadness and strange joy. "What's so funny?" Jake asked. "I just realized the truth," Turner replied. "We spent 60 years fighting in our timeline, convinced that we were defending humanity against alien aggression, but we were really just scared children with big guns, lashing out at anyone who seemed threatening." Dr. Brooks worked frantically at her console. "Captain Turner, I can modify our quantum manipulators to create a controlled temporal implosion. It would collapse the rift and send a resonance wave through local spacetime." "What would that accomplish?" Jake asked. Turner's form was becoming increasingly translucent, but his voice remained strong. "It would erase all evidence of our advanced technology from this timeline. The alien species would lose their motivation to develop superweapons. And more importantly, it would give humanity in this timeline something more valuable than any weapon." "What's that?" "A lesson. A warning about what happens when fear and pride override wisdom and compassion." Turner activated the ship's communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies to every vessel in the system. His image appeared on screens throughout the assembled fleet, flickering but clearly visible. "Leaders of the galaxy," Turner began, "I am Captain Alex Turner of the United Earthship Defiant. I come to you from a future where fear and aggression led to endless war. I have seen planets burned, entire species extinct, billions dead because nobody was willing to take the first step toward peace." The alien fleets listened in stunned silence as Turner continued. "The technology you see before you was created through decades of warfare. Every weapon on this ship was built to kill. Every shield was designed to survive attacks meant to destroy worlds. This ship represents the pinnacle of military science, and it is the greatest failure in human history." Emperor Korvthak himself responded, his massive form filling the communication screen. "You speak of failure, yet your single ship defeated our entire battle group." Turner nodded sadly. "And that victory would have led to escalation, just as it did in my timeline. You would have built bigger ships, developed more powerful weapons, formed alliances specifically to counter human technology. Within a generation, the galaxy would have been consumed by an arms race that no one could win." Dr. Martinez looked up from her analysis of the temporal rift. "Captain Morrison, the quantum instabilities are spreading beyond this system. If we don't act soon, the effects could reach inhabited worlds." Jake made the hardest decision of his career. "Captain Turner, do what you have to do, but first let me say something." Jake activated his own communication system, his image joining Turner's in the galaxy-wide broadcast. "My name is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth exploration vessel Horizons Edge. 3 days ago I was just another survey captain mapping asteroid fields and checking navigation beacons. Today I'm speaking to the most powerful beings in the galaxy, because I found something that could destroy us all." He gestured toward Turner's flickering form. "This man and his crew sacrificed everything to protect their timeline, only to find themselves dying slowly in ours. They could use their superior technology to conquer the galaxy, but instead they're choosing to give up their lives to prevent the war that created them." Turner began the final sequence, his hands moving over controls that would destroy the most powerful ship ever built. "To all species listening, I leave you with this message. True strength isn't measured by the size of your guns or the thickness of your armor. True strength is knowing when not to fight, even when you have the power to win." The Defiant began to glow with internal energy as its quantum manipulators reached critical mass. Space around the ship shimmered as reality itself prepared to bend. "Captain Morrison," Turner said, his voice barely audible now, "take care of them, all of them. Human, Corvin, Zethran. They're all just people trying to survive in a dangerous universe. Help them remember that." The implosion began slowly, then accelerated as the ship's power core fed energy into the temporal manipulators. The Defiant collapsed in on itself, taking the temporal rift with it. The explosion was unlike anything ever witnessed. A burst of pure temporal energy that rewrote local space-time and sent quantum echoes throughout the galaxy. When the light faded, the Defiant was gone. In its place was a simple message buoy, containing technical specifications for limited but significant improvements to space travel, energy generation, and medical technology. More importantly, it contained Turner's complete historical records of the war that had never happened. The alien fleets found themselves staring at each other across empty space, their original reason for gathering erased from existence. But the memory of Turner's sacrifice remained, and his words echoed in every mind present. Emperor Korvthak was the first to speak. "Humans, your captain has shown wisdom that shames us all. The Corvin Empire withdraws its fleets and offers formal recognition of Earth as a sovereign power." Other voices followed, offering trade agreements, cultural exchanges, and mutual defense acts. The galaxy's most powerful beings had witnessed something unprecedented. A species choosing sacrifice over conquest, wisdom over strength. Jake sat in his command chair, overwhelmed by what had just happened. In a single moment, humanity had gone from ignored primitives to respected members of the galactic community, not through the strength of their weapons, but through the courage of their choices. Ambassador Kate Sullivan looked at the diplomatic opportunities opening before them and smiled. Captain Morrison, I think we're going to need a bigger embassy. Years later, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Pioneer, humanity's first deep space exploration vessel. The ship was larger and more advanced than anything Earth had built before, but it carried no weapons more powerful than defensive systems. Its mission was exploration and diplomacy, not conquest. Dr. Lisa Martinez, now his chief science officer, approached with a datapad. Admiral, we've received clearance for the Andromeda expedition. The Galactic Council has approved our request to establish the first intergalactic peaceful contact mission. Jake smiled as he looked at the coordinates Turner had left them. Distant galaxy where humanity's descendants waited among the stars, having learned to build through